politics right now is all about the debt ceiling and whether leaders in Washington can find a solution. In remarks yesterday, President Obama trying to point out areas of agreement.
Keep in mind, this is not a situation where the two parties are miles apart. We're in rough agreement about how much spending can be cut responsibly as a first step toward reducing our deficit. We agree on a process where the next step is a debate in the coming months on tax reform and entitlement reform. And I'm ready and willing to have that debate.
Well, not everybody agrees there's enough common ground to get a deal done. Democratic strategist Maria Cardona is in Washington for us. Republican strategist Lenny McAllister in Chicago. Friends of our show here on CNN Saturday morning. In this regular segment, we always ask you guys, what do you think your political headline of the week was? So I will bring that back now. Maria, what do you think the political headline of the week was?
I think you know what mine's going to be, TJ. It's going to be that we are the victims of the tyranny of 87.
And I will let you explain that in just a moment. Lenny, you tell me what your headline of the week was.
Failure to get it, failure to lead.
All right, we will get into that as well. Let me start with what the president's saying and what several have said, that they're actually close, certainly on some of the numbers. They're not that far apart. But, Maria, is the case that the differences may be small, but at the same time, they are significant.
I think that's exactly right, TJ. And here's where you're going to see the problem that the GOP is facing. And I'll go to my headline, which is that we're all victims of the tyranny of 87, meaning that the 87 Tea Partiers within the GOP caucus are the ones who are being completely inflexible, intransigent, recalcitrant, whatever word you want to use, because they absolutely have no clue both how to govern and no interest in compromising. That is what they were elected to do, and that's what they don't understand. The American people, majorities of Americans, including Republicans, want our leaders to work together. This president has actually tried to work together several times. Boehner has walked away from the negotiating table several times. It is time now to get it done.
Well, Lenny, you top her big words, okay? Recalcitrant, intransigence on the side of some on the Republican side, as she said. But is she right? Can we really point to a handful of people, maybe 87 or whatever number you want to point to, that are really the issue here and are holding up compromise because they refuse to do anything other than some of the promises they made to some of the Tea Party contingent back in their districts?
I think we need to hold off for just a second because that's the story this week. The story last week was we were close to a deal and $400 billion in additional revenues came on the table at the last minute, and that's what prompted Speaker Boehner to walk away from President Obama's proposal. Listen, we now have seen a lot of people be inflexible and get us to this point in time, and now everybody's trying to rush to the table. These 87 folks that came to Washington came there because nobody was working together. Remember, we had the health care debate where we had inflexible Democrats, I should say, that refused to work with Republicans. This is a Washington problem, and these folks that came to Washington as freshman legislators are trying to really do the will of the people. Now, do they need to negotiate a little better? Yes, I do think, generally speaking, they do. But this is symptomatic of the problems of Washington politics that, by the way, President Obama was supposed to change when it came to this culture when he came in 2009. Well, guess what? We still have it in 2011. That's why we've had some failure to get it, because everybody has been a little inflexible, but yet we've had a failure to lead up until this point.
Maria, does he make a point there, at least, that maybe these 87, or however many you want to name there, these Tea Party candidates, or now Congress, members of Congress, they are bringing a point to the forefront. It might be ugly, but this is a debate and albeit a fight that needs to be had, and maybe we shouldn't just be raising the debt ceiling without having a conversation first.
Well, you know what? That's actually true, but here again underscores just how inflexible they are. If this were at any other time in political history, the GOP would take the deal on the table and call it a huge win. They have gotten every single thing that they have talked about coming here to Washington to do. They have changed the debate. But you know what the president and the Democrats are not going to let them do? They're not going to let them balance the budget or hold the debt ceiling hostage on a deal that will do all of that on the backs of the elderly, of students, of middle class, of the workers, of small businesses, because that's exactly what they're trying to do while protecting hedge fund managers who are billionaires, corporate jet setters, the biggest oil and gas corporations, and all the people who could actually pay pay a little bit more to make sure that everything that we're talking about is shared sacrifice. That's what the American people want, and that's what the GOP does not understand.
Lenny, I will let you go ahead and respond to that.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is we need to be able to create jobs. Yes, we need a balanced approach. We need people working together. And I will say that there are some Tea Party members that I think need to be a little bit more flexible. But let's not forget, the bottom line is the Democrats hadn't raised any of these issues for years. So now you have the Tea Party driving a conversation that we weren't talking about this time last year. In 2009, we were talking about spending, spend our way out of this recession. 2010, it was spend more money on health care reform. Now we're talking about cutting spending and getting our fiscal house back in order, which is exactly what we need to do. Now, of course, you're going to be dragging these folks to the water. We can't make everybody drink, if you will, but at least the Tea Party is doing their job and making us focus on what we need to do to get American sovereignty back and get us back to a point in time where we can responsibly get out of this recession.
Maria, was Speaker Boehner fair in his criticism of the president and of Democrats? What specifically has to say the president? And that, okay, you're saying, I don't want that, and you're saying that, okay, that needs to go in, but you're not putting a plan on the table, and he continues to call it a failure of leadership. Has that been a part of the problem, and is that fair criticism that the president didn't walk in and say, here you go, this is my idea, versus saying no to this, no to that?
The president has put many plans on Speaker Boehner's table, and he has seen them. And that's, in fact, why we have been talking about how close we have been to the negotiation of a grand bargain several times. Lenny talked about $400 billion that the president put on the table. Yes, that's true, but you know what the president didn't do? He didn't say, this is my way or the highway. He said to Speaker Boehner, I'd like to consider this. This is less revenue than what the Gang of Six proposed. This is what the majority of Americans think is fair. Let's talk about this. Instead of Speaker Boehner saying, well, no, I don't think we can do this. Let's look at something else. He walks away. That's not how you negotiate. That's not how you lead. That's not how you govern. That's the problem.
Lenny, let me let you take the last 30 seconds here. Is she right, though? Has the president been presenting plans all along?
It's called moving the goalpost, and that's exactly what happened last week. And it was irresponsible for the president to put that into the mix when we were at such a point of time where we were close to getting it done, where Speaker Boehner did pull in his caucus. We looked as though we were going to have some type of bipartisan workmanship together, and at the last minute, here we go, $400 billion more in revenues being brought on the table, which we knew would only come about through raising taxes. Yes, the president moved the goalpost, and here we sit, fourth and goal once again.
All right, Lenny, Maria, next weekend, we might be talking about a new topic not related to the debt. And I've been sending out tweets on Facebook and asking the question, next weekend, are we going to be talking about a new economic crisis? We certainly hope not, but we are just 2+ days away from what they're telling us.
It's up to the GOP.
All right, Maria, good to, yeah, I knew Lenny was going to get a laugh in. Lenny, Maria, good to see you guys. As always, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.